Welcome back to the International Wealth Builders Radio Show with your host, Dr. Sharon Barnes. We're here with Meredith Stewart from Cross Country Mortgage talking about ADUs. And hopefully you've been with us during the early part of the hour where we talked about the impact of interest rates on ADUs. We talked about the $40,000 grant that's available to help you build the ADUs and make your dream of having an ADU a reality. And now we're going to talk about how to leverage the ADU laws even further under SB 9. And Meredith is going to share some information with us. And Meredith, take it away.
Well, I am really excited. We've talked about SB 9 in the past, predominantly about splitting lots. But when you look at the larger picture of SB 9 and the SB 9 laws, the bottom line is it deregulates all housing and it allows any single family home to have up to 2 houses and 2 ADUs on it, whether or not it's owner occupied or an investment property. So in taking, I want you, and this is really important, to master plan your community because, or your property, because I am seeing clients looking at, oh, you know, for their retirement or whatever, they've got a house and they're planning to put an ADU right smack in the middle of that big backyard.
Right.
And I want you to think more strategically about what you're going to do, because the other thing too is that an SB 9 unit is the same thing as a duplex, which is really exciting for mortgage purposes. So there's a difference, even if an ADU and an SB 9 unit look and feel exactly alike, just by the fact that on paper they are zoned differently, I have to treat them differently as in the mortgage way. With an SB 9 unit, first of all, permit-wise, there's no limits on size. And the only difference is you have to add fire sprinklers, which, by the way, cheapens your insurance. So a couple bucks on insurance. But on the mortgage side, you get dollar for dollar square foot appraisal, full gross living area on your SB 9 unit.
Okay.
With ADUs, you generally do not. Now, our bank works only with specially trained appraisers trained by the Appraisal Institute. So we do get 75% at least of future value on the ADUs, but I'd rather get 100% of value, right? That can be $100,000 difference.
Right.
So the appraisal values and the fact that we're allowed to factor in rental income on the SB 9 units makes financing SB 9 units even easier than ADUs.
So you can, so Meredith,
Mm-hmm.
you can get the count the rental income from day one on the SB 9, not have to wait
Yes,
24 months like on ADUs.
that's right.
Okay.
And in many loan types, you can never count rental income on ADUs. Fannie Mae is a classic one. So only Freddie Mac right now allows us to factor in rental income only after the ADU is built. Now, there's some non-QM loans and a whole bunch of other stuff which are allowing ADU rental income. But the larger question of SB 9 units is just sheer cash flow. If you take a single family home lot that's got a decent sized backyard, let's say you build, you know, a 2-bedroom, let's say a 3-bedroom unit, you know, that's probably about $1,732 per month, but it's $4,000 in rent.
Wow.
And then let's say you build, you know, 2 junior ADUs. Maybe you convert the garage. That's $866 per month, and that's $2,400 in rent, maybe $22. That's potential monthly cash flow of $5,366 a month.
Great.
That's incredible cash flow.
Yes, that's a great investment.
Yeah, and so looking at your yard from a strategic level, even if you're having your own kids live in there, and you're like the Kennedys, right? You create the family compound, right, in Cape Cod, and have all these wonderful units, and the grandkids are playing in the central courtyard and whatever. that is far more cost effective to do as multiple units.
That sounds great. Now, when we look at the lot and like you say, planning out the community, I understand that we can build the second unit as say like an ADU with the potential lot split, or do we have to
No, you
no.
do not have to split the lot to build those units. However, you can, for any single family home, just to repeat, you can have 2 houses and 2 ADUs on a single family zoned lot. Now, if your lot is big enough, yeah, you can split that lot and add another house on each one and have 2 ADUs on each one. So you
Mhm.
can continue, and a lot of these aren't going to be our usual California one-story ranches. You're going to start to see people go up. That is ultimately where we are all going. So I think that makes a lot of sense in thinking about master planning, especially in the Inland Empire, where you've
Yes.
got a lot of former agriculture lots and things like that.
We have a lot of
Splitting them.
yeah, we have a lot of deep lots. We have the rectangular that's almost 200 square feet long.
Yep.
And they're looking at the back. Now, when they put that ADU in initially, the further back we put it on the lot, sometimes the more trenching to tap into sewer, more expensive for the utilities. But if we're planning a master community, that still would be a cost that's worth taking, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Would you see on trenching on that, Sharon? Maybe 10, 20,000?
Yeah, yeah, because
Okay.
you have to go almost 50 to 70 feet if we have to go from from the curve back, to the
Okay.
ADU, if we're going to leave enough room in between the existing house and the secondary house.
Okay. So 10, 20,000, that's $100 a month, right? So let's go back to my numbers. At today's interest rates, it's 650,000 for every 100,000 you spend, or for every 10,000 you spend, it's $65 a month. This time next year, it'll be $495. So let's have a nice rent of $50 for every 100, for every 10,000. That's a gonga,
Yeah,
and your renters are going to pay for all that.
that's true. Yeah, and that's why we can't just settle with the simple math, because again, people talk, they want to know how much it costs, and they're looking at it as debt and not going through these calculations to see that in the end, your tenants are going to be paying, and we want to be the landlords and not the tenants. This is what we're trying to do.
That's definitely true. Definitely true. So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
but super important to master plan and think about what SB9 can do for you, not just, and you may not want to build now. That's okay. You may not want to build ever, but your kids might want to build. So where you be strategic about where you build that ADU on a lot.
And let's go back to clarification. You were saying that you do not have to split the lot on the SB9 and still get 4 or more units?
Yep, you
Okay.
can get up to 4 units,
Okay.
the 2 houses,
Okay.
unlimited size, and 2 ADUs, which size are limited. Now, ultimately, the federal guidelines are tricky, and I got to walk you through that. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I think what the feds are going to settle on, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all those guys, Fannie Mae sets the tone for the rest of the lending world. I think they're going to settle on 4 units, period. 4 units, 1 to 4 units is residential lending. Above that is
Exactly.
commercial,
Exactly.
regardless of what you call it, what you call
Okay.
that unit.
Okay. And since you mentioned commercial and 5 and above, we do know that the ADU laws do apply to multifamily. Is it still, but they're taking like maybe 4 units and they can add a 5th unit or 25% of a multifamily. Are you seeing any of that, or can you talk about how the ADUs
I
are
am.
applying to the multifamily?
Yeah. So basically, for every 2 units you have, whether it's every 2 units you have, you can basically add 1 additional ADU. Sometimes in some places it's unit for unit. So I've seen a fourplex be turned into an eightplex because they've converted the garages downstairs.
Okay.
Absolutely. Generally speaking, this is where it gets to be a gray area as to whether it's residential or commercial, because a lot of my investor loans can cover that. You don't have to go commercial, but to be honest, the commercial rates, lending is, even while the rates are a tad bit higher for sure, it's still worth it because the rent cash flow is unbelievable.
Exactly. And I know some in the Inland Empire have had some clients that have taken the multifamily and they've converted the washrooms. They've put some of
Hmm.
the renovated apartments have stackable washer and dryers in them. So they have taken away the washroom and converted those into living spaces, into ADUs, or like you say, garages. Now that we really, in a lot of places, don't have to replace the parking, they've taken those garages and turned them into ADUs. So if you have a fiveplex and you have a couple garages that's not used or whatever, you could actually turn them into two additional spaces and turn it, like you said, into a 7 unit or higher, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it's pretty, but when you start strategically thinking ahead and master planning your properties, that's where it really makes sense.
Okay. And when we were
And
talking,
by the
yeah,
By the way, I want to add, college areas are a particularly fantastic place to live because college areas, and by the way, there's a lot of pivoting as a whole to renting out individual rooms, not just on furnished finders, but also Zillow. I'm seeing a lot of people pivoting to what I'm calling medium-term rentals of individual rooms. Those individual rooms are renting up to, in San Diego, they're renting up to $1,800 a month
wow.
in areas in Riverside. What are you seeing? Like 1,200, $1,000 a month?
Yeah, if they're closer to the college, this depends. And if they're
Yeah.
short terms, yeah, we're doing that.
So
But
so
but
I have
generally
some.
like 800,
Yeah.
800 average for a room, but that's on the standard house that hasn't been modified. But when we're talking to some of the homeowners, we do talk about the amenities outside and laying the yard out. Some people are putting in pools, they're putting in the fire pits. I mean, if you're making it like a small resort, you can get greater rent if we go beyond just the living area, but also the common areas outside.
But for the kids, I'm seeing a lot of people building 1,200 square foot ADUs, and they're fitting 5 to 6 micro rooms in with one bathroom and a kitchen in
Wow.
order to cash cow that thing. But the kids, I mean, they don't really care, you know.
Right, right.
So
Right.
they get some privacy, and they get, it's better than living in a dorm with
Yeah,
in the same room.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and then what we're seeing, like you said, you're talking about thinking bigger, and that's something that I think we all have to kind of go back to the drawing board and look at, because what I am seeing though is that 749 square feet. When we get under 750, we avoid the impact fees, and then we squeeze at least two bedrooms in that. Usually, the nice rectangular design fits in the Inland Empire with the room on each side, the open area, which is conducive for college living as well as senior. And if you need a caregiver or something like that, those are two bedrooms,
yeah.
two bath with the privacy separation between the bedrooms are what we're
Hmm.
seeing, especially breaking, with avoiding the impact fees. Because had like one client, he was set on doing 1,000 square feet, and they were, just for him and his wife, and they were saying, well, even at the counter, I went to the city, and they said, I remember him, we were trying to talk him into 749, and he's stuck on like 1,000, but that's what's going to cost him over $15,000 in impact fees, so which can be
Yeah.
substantial to the homeowner. So even like you said, if we can't go for the 1,200 square feet, the 750 can definitely, and you probably can get, if you want micro rooms, you probably could get 3 or 4 in there if it's for college. But I guess we have
Yeah.
to be like
Right.
we have to be like the commercial things when they go for the offices, right? Build up a wall, take down a wall, have four
Yeah,
meeting
if you're
rooms.
working the TIs, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer in those ADU one bedroom duplexes. I mean,
Yeah.
those are cash cows. you know, rather than as opposed to a 2-bedroom. A lot of times the 1-bedroom duplexes will cash flow more than if you didn't have a wall between those 2 units. So, you know,
Yeah.
you just got to look at what your local situation is.
Yep, and your budget. So, Meredith, thank you so much. We're going to take a final break here. We will be back with Meredith to do the wrap up to see what other gold nuggets she wants to leave with us before we end the show. We've talked about the interest rates, the ADU grant, the SB9 possibilities, multifamily. This has been so informative, and I'm sure people have benefited from it. So stay with us for the last segment so you can find out how to reach myself and Meredith so we can help make your ADU project a reality.